You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. I am your host, Mo, and today, doing a solo episode. So, normally I record episodes a few weeks in advance. I think I've mentioned to you all before that I really follow my intuition with this podcast, meaning that I don't schedule out guests far in advance. I really do it pretty much on a month-to-month basis because I like to kind of stay current with what's coming up for me, what's coming up for people that I'm working with, and who do I want to introduce to my audience. And so a few days ago, I was really feeling like I wasn't sure what to record about. And normally I drop the podcast today. Actually, it's a Thursday. I drop the podcast usually on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. And when I still didn't know exactly where I felt led to go, I decided to share an Instagram story with a poll. And I asked you all what you most wanted to hear about, or if you had any other ideas. And the episode that everybody, for the people who voted and participated in the poll, it was being versus doing, the concept of being versus doing. And I thought this was interesting because I've talked about it quite a bit, I feel like, but maybe it's just been in pieces and I've not done a full episode about it. I talked about it quite a bit on episode 29, and it's that talking about the mix of having a balance of masculine and feminine energy. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. And so the masculine energy is more of a doing energy, whereas the feminine is more about just being and receiving. And this is something that I've made very much a focus of my life for especially these last 4 years since I started my business. And so this was awesome because it gave me a chance to really sit down and think about it and write out some examples and really think about how to best explain it. Because I feel like the reason those of you that chose it did was perhaps because it's one of the most difficult things to not just understand the concept, but understand how to embody this, how to actually implement it into your life. And so it's taken me the last 6 or 7 years to really fully understand what it means for me. And I know that I'm not not complete by any means, but I'm much further along than I have been. And so hopefully in today's episode, I can give you more examples that will help ground this information into where you're at in your own life, and you might be able to make some changes because of it. So thank you for interacting with my Instagram polls when I put them out there. I really do listen to you. I really do appreciate your feedback, and I really do want your feedback as well. I want to integrate what I feel led to speak about with more of what you also are wanting to hear about. So this whole journey for me really started back in 2018 when I first met Enmei Mangels. And for those of you that have heard the first episode of my podcast, you know that she was my guest and the inspiration for the name of my company, I Love It When. In one of my first sessions with her, she said, Mo, you've got to stop doing and just start being. And I was like, okay, how do I just be and do all the things that I really want to do? How do I just be? And at that time, I was working in my full-time job, right? But I was doing a podcast with my boss that was happening during the work week. And then I was also creating more outside of my job because I was really wanting more. So I was creating these retreats that would bring in admin that were in real estate from all over the country. And these retreats usually had anywhere between 30 and 45 people. They were huge. And I was bringing in high level speakers that normally cost anywhere between $20,000 to $40,000. So I was running these really high level retreats, never having done this before, and bringing in speakers who have a lot of fabulous information to share and are really high level people. And so I had packed my life pretty tightly. And so to give you an example of what that looked like for me and so you can see what it's like when I compare it to where I'm at now, it looks like distraction all day long. This is what doing looks like. It looks like not really having even 5 minutes or making 5 minutes to pause and reflect in your day and doing whatever you can, whether conscious or unconscious, to avoid pausing and feeling your feelings. So I was getting up, just as an example, getting up at 7 a.m., having breakfast, getting ready to leave, leaving the house by 8:15 to get to work by 9 a.m., and then working till 5:30 p.m. or later on occasion, usually going to hot yoga that night if I was doing good that week, and I went at least 3 days a week. Getting home by 8:30 p.m., taking a quick shower, eating something, maybe reading and going to bed, and then wake up and repeat Monday through Friday. And it really started to grate on me. And I started in the real estate industry at about 32 years old. Yeah, 31, 32, and I left when I was 39. So it was really around age 32 to 35 where this schedule and also this life of working all day long, all week long, and just kind of starting to live. I was starting to live for the time after work and starting to live for the weekend. It really started to grate on me. And I noticed increasingly irritated and annoyed at everything and everyone. And at first, I really couldn't figure out why. Little things would pull a reaction out of me. And I'm a very mellow, um, calm, grounded person naturally. And we all have our limits, right? And so it was not typical for me to move through life being reactive. So I was also always, or 80% of the time, focused on everything outside of myself. I was so focused on helping other people. Just as an example, I would do things like, oh, so and so is sad right now, like they have a lot going on in their life and they're sad about it. I should take them to a movie. So and so is feeling overwhelmed. You know what? I could go over to their house on Saturday and I could help them organize their office or organize their house. I can help. And I always left myself last because I think my automatic thinking was I'm single, I don't have kids, there's nothing extra I need to do outside of work. So I should dedicate most of my time to helping people who do have those things. And I'm also just a generous, loving person, and I really have a lot of compassion for people. And so I was overgiving. I was always thinking about how I could help every other person in life besides myself. And this was energetically sending the message to the universe that I mattered least. And I don't want you to think of when I say the universe right now, I'm not thinking of like a person or an entity or a being. Think of the universe as just an energy. And the energy you put out is what is reflected back to you. So if you're always putting out that energy of put me last, put me last, put me last, that is what you'll get in return. So just thinking about it from an energetic standpoint. And it's also doing this overgiving process is also a very easy way to avoid facing your feelings. So I also recognized that I was doing that as well. I was doing whatever I could to avoid stepping into and owning my life, living my own life. I was afraid of the unknown. I was afraid of what would happen if I actually started going after what I wanted. What if I what if it was a horrible failure? And by horrible failure, I think at the time I thought like nothing exciting happened. What if by choosing to step into my power and really do what I wanted to do, nothing exciting happened and it was just a total flop? And what did I even want anyways? That was even, I mean, once I got to the idea of like going out and actually living my own life, the thought of, well, what do I actually even want would come up. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin. So I would just go back to continuing to distract myself. So that's what doing looked like for me. And all those in between times, the evenings, the weekends, I was basically living for other people. So it was just this continuous cycle. And also, after working all week, as I'm sure many of you listening can relate, I was so tired that I really didn't have the energy to do anything besides distract myself. So if I wasn't helping someone, I was watching a movie, watching TV. I was reading, but not as much as I did later on or that I do today. I was basically doing whatever I could to just feel good for even a little bit before I went back to the grind of the week. So here are some things that I would do to cope. I guess I just mentioned some of these too, watching TV, movies, doing whatever I could to escape the reality of my day to day. And it's not like I had a bad life. It just wasn't satiating my desire, my soul's desire, my heart's desire for excitement and realness. Even at that time, before I had done a bunch of personal growth, I was always been someone who craved deep conversation from the time I was a kid. Like, I think my mom and dad could attest to this. I've always had a huge heart, and I'll never forget. I don't know when my mom said this, but at some point she said, "I'm really worried about how the world's going to impact your heart." It was something like that, and she might have not even said it directly to me. She might have been talking with someone about me, but I never forgot that. And I was just like, "What is it about my heart that is going to be hard with the world?" And now I understand that. I understand that I have really deep feelings. I feel things deeply. And so I really wanted to feel excited about my life. And I felt like it was possible. Like there had to be some possibility. Like it's not everybody felt this way. So I wanted to feel my life, feel my feelings, and wanted to experience more of a thrill. The weekends, like I mentioned, I would find things to do. I would also go shopping, find something cool. So, like, buy a new piece of clothing or something for wherever I was living that would give me this kind of temporary thrill. And it would get me excited for a minute. And I'd think, okay, maybe this is the thing that I was missing that I needed in order to feel complete. And it sounds so silly to say it now, but back then, as I was learning and discovering myself, I was also discovering my style. What did I like? What did I want my home to look like? What did I want to wear on my body? And so I would spend those weekends doing that. And then, as we all know, like part of Sunday usually was grocery shopping or cleaning to prep for the next week so that I could do it all over again and not be as exhausted during the week. So, grocery shopping and cleaning was something I always did like to do before the week got started because once the week started, it was just one thing after another. And I just kept going back to that same statement in my head. It's got to be better than this. There has got to be something that I'm missing. What is it? And I also never made more money than I knew what to do with. I always just made just enough money so that I also felt stuck in my current life or situation. I definitely was doing much better in real estate than I had been at the Seattle Art Museum. Working for a nonprofit as a single person in Seattle is pretty difficult. So that was part of the reason why I left was I knew that I was making $35,000 at the time and back in 2012. And I knew like in order to ever have the option of buying a place of my own, I needed to make something more. So money always felt like such a big obstacle to me. It felt like, well, this is reality. This is how much money I have. And if I don't have more than this, I have no options. And so that was one way that I was limiting myself was I truly was the person that was blocking my own success and blocking my own trajectory because I was saying it's money's fault. It's money's fault that I'm stuck in my current place. I can't just get up and travel and take myself to another place for more distraction. And then anytime I slowed down or had nothing to do for a day, let's say I took a day off or I just had nothing to do on a weekend day, I would ultimately, at some point during the day, feel down, depressed, or sad because I wasn't doing anything. Isn't it funny? Like you're doing all the time, all you want to do is pause, and then you pause, and then I would feel like I'm depressed about this. Like, what am I actually doing or what am I accomplishing? I must be doing something wrong because I'm not doing something. And so I wasn't dating anyone. I really, prior to meeting my current partner, Tom, when I was 39, like right when the pandemic started, I really was not a big dater and I did not have a bunch of relationships. And so most of the time I was by myself and or with friends or with family, but I was never dating someone, had never been married, no kids. And so I also did not have those things to distract me, which I see now is a blessing because honestly, by having all of these distractions taken away, I was forced to face a lot of things, I think, faster and sooner than some people have. So I was consistently brought back to these feelings of emptiness, sadness, general depression, feeling like I was not enough, not excited about life. And now I never expected these feelings to completely go away for the rest of my life. I know, and I knew then that it was possible, though, to feel them less often. And I knew that I was feeling them too often for my liking. So all feelings are temporary, but I just knew that it was happening too much and that it wasn't what I wanted. And it also wasn't how it had to be. So one of the first things that I did that I look back on now and I realized this changed my trajectory and really helped me to start move more into that beingness was meditation. So in October 2018, I started meditation because of the book The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And it took me about 20 to 25 days before I started to notice a feeling in my body. It felt like I had just gotten up off the beach and I'd been in Hawaii and I'd been laying there for like a half an hour. That's the kind of stillness and relaxation that my body felt. It was incredible. It did not create more excitement in my life or create the change that I was looking for. I want to make sure to mention that. The benefit and the ROI, I would not truly fully realize for a few years down the road from that point. What it did was help me in that moment to slow down so that I could pause long enough to actually acknowledge what I wanted, what I truly wanted, which in the beginning was something as simple as space. Space for meditation, yoga, massage, things that brought me more physical peace and thus mental peace. So I wanted to make sure to mention that meditation didn't bring that instant excitement that I was looking for. It didn't like create that external change in my reality, but it started the ripple. And I needed this. I needed meditation to be able to tune in and actually learn who I was and what I wanted. So meditation was, I believe, what helped me gain the courage to believe that I could own my own business. Without it, I don't think I would have made the leap that I did in July of 2020 when I left my 9 to 5. I was leaving behind a solid paycheck of, I think at the time I was making 72,000, so I was bringing in like 4,500 net a month. So I left that net behind. I left with just enough money to last me through the end of August. So just enough for about a month and a half. And I literally had no other savings. I had a mortgage. I had bills in the amount of about $5,000 per month at that time. And so meditation gave me the ability to create my own safety net, is kind of how I think of it, an actual net created by me and my consciousness. So not a net made of money, but a net within myself. My safety net is now within myself. And I hope this makes sense. There's nothing external that I can rely on to feel safe, truly and really. I can only provide that safety for myself. And I really want that to hit home because that's been one of the biggest pieces to me creating more of a feeling of neutrality around money and a feeling of safety around money, even when I don't have it, quote unquote, have it. Okay. Everything else is an illusion. I was never actually safe in any job I had before. That's all an illusion. We could lose our job at any point in time because that person who owns that company is doing what I'm doing now, which is having to create revenue, figure out how to bring more money in. So many of us are living constantly in fear. We try to make other people, our jobs, our family, our friends be our safety net, and they can't do that for us. Safety is created within. So I really wanted to make sure to mention that. So as I started my journey with meditation, I began to slowly become aware of how much I was doing, but I still didn't stop. I was constantly trying to make my current life work by creating retreats, teaching, doing a podcast, doing all these things that I thought would add more excitement, the excitement that I thought I was missing. And what truly helped me to stop and pause was the pandemic. As soon as I started working from home and I was away from the office and I was by myself in my own energy, I was able to see, wow, this is really what I want. I don't want to be working in an office anymore. I also don't want to be working for someone else anymore. I want to work for myself. I know I can do this. And having that chance to pause and really be in my own energy and not have conflicting energies around me all the time. This is why I often have clients go on solo trips because it might feel scary, but when you have that opportunity to really slow down and be in just your own energy, you're able to create a baseline for yourself so that it can be very confusing to have a lot of energies around you, especially if it's family that you live with and you have your own kids, things like that. It's often hard to recognize, hey, what's my baseline? And then am I feeling other people's feelings? Like with all these energies around us all the time, it's really important that you're able to distinguish your own energy from other people's energy. And so the pandemic really helped me to be able to do that. So this next piece, I want to talk a little bit more about how I moved again. I'm still in the process of moving through these years from doing to being. So now we're in 2020. And once I started my business, I was still doing, because that's what we're told to do as entrepreneurs, right? I had learned that in the real estate world, especially. You've got to hustle, hustle, and hustle more if you want to make it. So despite those messages, I intentionally made the decision to begin to slow down by creating the schedule that I wanted for myself. Rather than letting my life just haphazardly create my schedule for me, I decided that I would only coach on the first and the third weeks of the month, leaving the second and fourth weeks for other meetings, workshops, retreats I wanted to do. And this was actually suggested to me by a fellow coach of mine, David Breckheimer, who I love. He mentioned this and I really liked it. And so I decided to give it a try. And I'm so glad that I did. I've stuck with it. And it really has helped me to shape my weeks, my days, and my months how I want them to be with more space. So I then decided that on those first and third weeks, I would only coach on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays, preferably in the morning. And it was steps like these that started to help me see how I could craft my life by design. And once I made these decisions, then came the hard part, actually living it, putting it in place, and following through with it. I started integrating longer meditations in the morning, afternoon walks, and a monthly massage membership. I started crafting more space into my schedule. So rather than jamming it full like I could have as a new business owner with constant networking, all these Zoom meetings with people I certainly could have reached out and met with, I could have gone on LinkedIn and just, absolutely powered through the first year and just jammed myself full. But I intentionally did the opposite, which is really difficult to do, especially when your safety and security is threatened, like mine was. Not having a constant paycheck, understanding that I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage the next month was what I was battling with. It's what my ego was battling with at the same time that I was taking these direct opposite actions. Right. And this is right here. This is the crux of it. This is what I mean why it's so hard to integrate and embody it, because your ego will be saying, book the meetings, book the meetings, book the meetings. Meanwhile, I myself, not my ego, I'm observing my ego and I'm saying, I understand you're afraid. I understand this is scary. But you know what? We've never given this a full shot before. So we're going to do it this time and we're going to see if it works. We're going to follow our intuition. We're going to follow our heart and we're going to slow down and we're going to do only the inspired actions. And so I've had that conversation with my ego consistently a lot in the beginning. Now I'm having to argue less and less because it's working. And so my ego's calmed down quite a bit. I started tracking also. I often have clients do this, how often I say yes to people when I actually wanted to say no. And I definitely was doing this less when I started my business, but I still recognized how I was doing it in some ways. The hardest part was saying no because I didn't want to disappoint people. But I also recognized that I was disappointing myself by saying yes to things I didn't really want to do. And then I wasn't actually doing that person a favor by doing whatever activity it might be, whether it was friend related or work related. If I didn't really want to do it, I wasn't giving it my all. So I was intentionally giving myself more and more time to just be, even if I didn't know what I was going to do in that beingness, whatever that meant, sitting in silence, reading, going for whatever it was. I didn't plan that. I just said I'm going to give myself space and then I'll deal with the discomfort when I get there. And so what my schedule in my life looks like now. Hey, I'm popping in for a moment to let you know that if you're interested in working with me one-on-one in a small group, or you'd like to attend one of my upcoming retreats, please reach out or add yourself to my email list. You can go to iloveitwhen.org and scroll to the bottom where you'll see there's a spot to sign up. I also love to speak, teach, and create experiences for small, medium, or large-sized companies. If you know someone that I should know, please connect us. I'm looking to utilize I Love It When to create global change, and that will require collaborating with all of you. You're all so much more powerful than you realize. Remind yourself of that today. It's often hard for my ego to handle or understand my schedule because it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. And so my ego doesn't really understand how my business is still going. I wrote that in my notes and I just laughed out loud when I wrote that because it's really true. So, like I mentioned, I have my coaching schedule. I never work outside of this schedule or make exceptions unless the opportunity provides me with immense joy or spontaneous fun. I stick to that. I keep that promise to myself. So if clients want to work with me outside of that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, unless I'm super excited and I feel like it's such a beautiful fit, I'll make it work. I say no, and I usually will refer them to another coach. That's how closely I stick to this. Even on those months when I could really use the money, I stick to what I've prioritized for myself because I've recognized that all of this is energy. And if I'm constantly moving outside of what I truly want, that energetically is sending a message. And I want my energy to be super clear. So, for an example of what my week looks like, Monday, I have no coaching. So I usually get up around 8 a.m. I get up without an alarm, which is really cool for me. Still, it's cool for me. 4 years in, I'm still like, this is amazing because I've woken up with an alarm for most of my life. So just letting myself sleep until I wake up. And then I have breakfast, I meditate, I usually go for a walk, and by then it's noon, which feels totally illegal, right? Like by noon on most days for most of my life, I've been working for 3 hours and I've gotten emails done, projects started, I've had a meeting or two, like so much has happened. And so for a long time, just this part of the schedule was really hard for me because there were days when I would feel like, I just feel like I'm being so lazy right now. And I wasn't. I'm literally moving with my body, with moving with my energy. And then from 12 to 4 p.m. on a Monday, I might follow up on emails, arrange a podcast guest for that month. I might have a meeting, but most of the time I set my meetings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in the afternoons. And then from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. is dinner, maybe reading, maybe watching a movie with Tom, maybe going to a class, like a workout class, something like that. On Tuesday, I'm up usually by 7:30 a.m. I do need to use an alarm on those days to make sure that I'm up early enough to have time for breakfast and meditation before I have coaching from 9 to 10:30. And then I follow up on email from 10:30 to like 11:15. And then I have lunch, go for a walk. That afternoon, I don't usually have any other plans. And so I might run errands or I might go to a coffee shop, whatever kind of feels good to me. And then Wednesday, again, up by 7:30 a.m. for a 9 o'clock coaching call. And then I might go to a sound bath after that. Same thing, lunch, walk. You can see some of the consistent habits here. I always make time for lunch, break, and a walk and meditation every day. And the biggest thing about this schedule that I want you to know is that I can change this at any time. I can drop everything. I can take the day off. I can go to my mom's. I can go to a coffee shop just because I feel like it. Now, the things I try not to move are obviously my coaching calls because I've designated those days and times with that person. And I prefer to stick to those days and times. But otherwise, after the coaching call is done, I can choose to do whatever I like. And this is where prioritization and intuition really start to work together. You start to find your rhythm and kind of find what feels good to you. So, what I've been doing through this is creating a new baseline for myself, discovering how much rest my body actually needs, and giving it time to heal post burnout. So, what I mean by that is, I recognized when I left my job and in the first year of my business that I was really, really burnt out. I was burnt out to the point that I didn't know what felt good to me anymore. I didn't know what the right amount of time was for me to work in the day or in the week because I just was conditioned and used to what I'd been doing, which since I was, in college and post college and my first couple of jobs, it was working all day long and usually working in excess of that for events or things because I always worked in jobs where, like the Seattle Art Museum, we had events after hours, we had all sorts of things that required more time. And I also was an overachiever and really liked to prove my worth through what I could accomplish through work. And so I was only worthy of being loved or being liked or being appreciated if I was overachieving and overworking. It was also, and I think another way for me to cope with keeping people happy and not upset with me, because I really didn't like it when people were upset with me. So all of these different things I recognized and I've been working on healing within myself. as I recognize this. Oh, this is why I did that. Oh, like it's not all about other people. It's not because of the people at the Seattle Art Museum that I worked with or the people at Pickett Street or whomever. It was me not setting my boundaries, not saying what I would and would not do, not creating and crafting my life in the way that I wanted that and expressing it to other people. So I really needed to figure out what it felt like for my body to be at neutral, to be at my baseline. And so I had to really give myself really these whole last 4 years, but the first 2 years were the most important to rest, recover, do lots of self care, which sometimes meant just napping, taking as many breaks throughout the day that I wanted to, meditating multiple times a day, going for walks, doing workout videos, like whatever felt good to me, and playing, just lots of play too. So once I started to find my baseline and I started to kind of figure out what felt good to me, then I started playing with, all right, I've only ever seen success happen through hustle. I wonder what it would look like if I just took inspired, intuitive action and didn't hustle as much. Because before it would be like hustle, hustle, hustle. Ooh, inspired action, do that too, but keep hustling. Now, what I really strive to do is just take inspired action. So rather, for example, I like to give this example of, let's say it takes 10 steps to get to a certain goal. But if you just take inspired action, it might only take 2 or 3 steps, and the rest is handled by the universe. And you're just supposed to kind of do it with ease, do it with flow, do it in a peaceful way because you don't have to do the 7 other steps. But because we're used to just going, 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 most of the time, most of us will just do all those 7 steps and just be like, you know what, I'll just do it myself. I'm not going to wait for anybody else to do it. I don't need to take a break. Let's just go. Well, I'm figuring out that you don't have to. And it's been a game changer. Because of that, I have more time and more space to myself for creativity. I have more ideas that can come in because I have space for the ideas. I'm able to bring all of myself to the events that I do, to my coaching clients, to my life, to my personal self. And so it's a new baseline that I've been building. And I really, really love it. And so once the new baseline is built, then you can slowly start to add in new things. And choosing those new things, I use a few simple criteria for myself. One, does it bring me excitement or joy immediately at the thought of it? Two, does it fit within my current schedule in a way that feels light and airy? Three, am I receiving an equal exchange for my time and energy? If it's yes to all three, then I'm in. If not, no. And so that first criteria of does it bring me excitement or joy, sometimes I can't tell right away if something's a good fit or not, but I just feel neutral about it, and that's usually a sign that I should at least explore it. But if I feel immediate excitement or I can start to envision whatever it is that might be, maybe it's a retreat, collaboration, or a possibility of a new coaching client that I've never worked with before, or a workshop that I'm being asked to do, I can usually tell right away if I'm like, yes, I'm in. And if I'm not, then I usually ask for 24 hours to give myself a chance to step back, breathe, meditate, and see how I feel about it. And I do that often. That might be one of the best pieces of advice I can give you that I often give to clients. One of the things that I think we can all do more often that we just sometimes refrain from doing is giving ourselves time. Time to make a decision, time to take a breath and not respond right away because we don't have to. And I think before I would get in the habit of just immediately responding or feeling like I had to respond to that person. And so oftentimes now I'll say, this is amazing. Thank you so much for providing me with this opportunity and telling me more about it. Can I come back to you in 24 hours? I need to give myself some time to marinate on this. And this is just to make sure that I'm not saying yes to something just because of that other person, whoever it might be. I want to make sure that my yes is a real yes. So, some things for you to remember about all of this. Nobody can do this for you. It has to be you. And this was something I had to come to understand and accept. Because for a long time, I was looking for a mentor or a leader or a book or someone to tell me how to do it. Just tell me how to do it. And now I realize looking back, I know now what I didn't know then, which is obviously nobody can be inside my brain. Nobody is me. Nobody knows my soul like I know myself, so someone else can't make these decisions. And I think that's one of the hardest parts because it means you have to learn to trust yourself. And so I can share all these examples of my life and lead my coaching clients through all sorts of different exercises and things to help them get to know themselves. But ultimately, you're the person to make the decision. And I think that was probably one of the hardest things for me to accept because I just felt like somebody else should be able to tell me how this works. And then a big part of this journey is being extremely present and in the moment. And this is so that you can better gauge how you truly feel and what your soul wants and desires, and then follow that. Following through is critical. So, being extremely present means you're going to catch things, just like I talked about catching how I was making decisions for other people, like based on other people, in order to make sure that they were happy. I wouldn't have caught that if I hadn't started to be truly present in my day to day life and realize, oh, I just said yes to going to lunch with that person, but I didn't really want to. Dang it, I said it too quick. I said yes too quick. And so being present, you'll start to catch these things that are happening without your awareness, like you're just on autopilot saying yes to. And then the following through piece, following through is like if you don't want to go to lunch, as that example, really saying no in that moment, even if it might be painful, whatever it is you're saying no to, even if it might feel uncomfortable, really truly following through because that's the only way that you create new neural pathways in your brain and new habits for yourself. And then prioritization is very important. So, in order to know how you want to prioritize activities in your life, people, and your life in general, you need to be very clear on what you want. And in order to know what you truly want, you need to be able to slow down and tune in to your heart and to your soul. So, I looked at these examples that I gave you and I thought about it, and the steps that I kind of narrowed this down to are one, slow down and tune in so you can create your baseline. Two, prioritize constantly according to your intentions and goals. This is where you're shifting and changing, and you may get pushback from your friends, family, and colleagues because it affects their reality, right? So as you prioritize and say, you know what, no, I don't really want to do that, and people are used to you saying yes all the time, you are probably going to get some pushback, which is where I think a lot of people falter and kind of go back to their old ways. I know that I did for quite a while. And so give yourself lots of grace and just know that this can be the part that's the hardest because not only are you changing yourself and what you are acknowledging, what you really want in your life, this affects other people in your immediate existence because they're used to you being a certain way. Number three, integrate and embody. And this is where, you know, people are getting used to this new version of you. You're getting used to this new version of you. It's really fully starting to integrate and then you're starting to embody this new version of yourself. And then step four, that leads into step four, which is your reality starts to shift around you. So because you're thinking differently about yourself and you're getting to know yourself differently, you're making different decisions, which is having a ripple effect on your life. It might affect where you live. It might affect who you live with or who you have around you. It might affect your work. It might affect, and it should affect absolutely everything. So this is this process that I wanted to share today about going from doing to being. And I think the other thing I can say about this is that it can be messy and kind of gray in this in between area, but you will notice when you start to step more into that being phase because there'll be more times throughout the day when you don't have anything planned. And not only that, not only do you have this empty space, but you just find yourself literally doing less and somehow accomplishing more of what you really want and being more of yourself and not even needing to accomplish as much anymore, if that makes sense. The other part about this that is at energetically, like as you start to just be more, things come to you without you having to chase after them. So opportunities come to you, people come to you, because a part of this is, right, like as you're intentionally interacting with the people that you want to interact with, the places you want to interact with, the activities you want to do, you put yourself around more and more of the people that you want to spend more time with. And energetically, things are then drawn to you. So it's less about, using myself as an example, me going after new clients or different opportunities. Now the clients and the opportunities are finding me because my energy has gotten so strong. It's more of a magnet, and I'm literally pulling things to me. I hope this part makes sense. By doing less and preserving my energy is stronger. It's almost like a light bulb that's gotten brighter and brighter and brighter, if you think of it like that, because I'm not expending as much energy, I'm conserving it and I'm using it more wisely. And so, because my light is brighter, I'm literally drawing things to me. So, I feel much more at peace. I feel much more balanced because I'm also not overgiving. I'm also receiving more, just like that light bulb is bringing things to it. So I'm able to receive more. I'm allowing myself to receive. I'm accepting help. I'm accepting gifts. I'm accepting things that I think in the past were hard for me to just accept and receive. So I hope this gives you a better idea of what doing versus being feels like and could look like for you. It's one of the most difficult things to implement and change. And I can tell you that with intention and daily actions, you can really begin to feel the impact. Uh, and it definitely has an impact on my mental health, my mental, my mental, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual health, all of those things. It has an impact on every bit of it. And I can now look back when Enmei said that to me, "Hey Mo, stop doing and start being." Now I know what she means. And I'm so grateful to myself for embarking on the journey to figure out what that means. And so I just want to tell you, like, if even if my steps don't resonate with you, if you want to start on this journey of leaning more into being over doing, just begin today. Begin by noticing. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to cover today. I'm going to pull a card for us before I end this episode. I am pulling from my Energy Oracle deck. It's one of my new favorite decks. And let's see, I'm going to ask, what's the energy for us for September? I know I did this for I do this for my newsletter every month that I send out. By the way, if you're not on my newsletter, go to my website, iloveitwhen.org, and down at the bottom, you can scroll to the bottom and sign up for my monthly newsletter. And I always send a card that represents the energy for the month. And so I'm going to double check and see, remind myself, I think it was the Queen. Yes, the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. And one of the questions under this description of the card says, "Do you accept help as easily as you offer it?" So very much talking about receiving, which is what I was just talking about. That's funny. Queen of Pentacles. So let's see what other card we got for the energy of September. I got this card called Hostilities. I think I've maybe pulled this one other time. And then the World. So let me look up the description for you. Hostilities is interesting. It's a guy who looks like he's about to go to war. Defenses up, aggressive energy. This card shows a man raising his sword in readiness to do battle. When it comes upright, it reveals a situation where hostilities towards you are about to be or have already been engaged. The aggressive energy may be verbal or emotional, with someone in your environment being excessively critical, demanding, or hurtful. In a work or social situation, there may be backstabbing or out and out slander going on. This is different from the deceit card because the hostile energies are more apparent, more overt. In fact, you may have been living with them for some time, but whether this is new or old energy, now is the time to regain control. Allowing dishonoring treatment from others is an open invitation to the universe to send you more. It may feel risky, but you need to have the courage to stand up for yourself now and always. Okay. And then 29, the World. Expansion, opening up. The man in this picture is looking out over a bay above which the beautiful sphere of the earth is rotating. This card is reminding you to expand your vision and contemplate some much broader options. The world is wide, so there's a lot out there to consider. In the modern age of technology, this could specifically be referring to creating or expanding to a more global network through the internet or social marketing. Drawing this card also lets you know that you have unlimited resources available to you, and now is the time to think big. As they say, the world is your oyster, so get ready to gobble it up. Interesting. So it's interesting that we've been talking today about being versus doing, because the other thing that comes up to me for me as I think about this card, the hostilities card, is I've been thinking about this a lot lately. The more I'm so excited and passionate about teaching people about ways to heal. And when I say healing, I mean from the inside out. Because sometimes it feels like when you leave the house, it's almost like you're, I don't know why these examples come to mind for me. Like you're on a foosball table and you run into all these different people who have traumas and have things that they haven't healed. And so you knock into one and they might be irritated or, yeah, irritated or hostile towards you. You knock into another one and their trauma jumps out at you. Like it's, I think the thing that is most important about moving to this place of being is that it also helps you to be more responsive versus reactive. And so you might find that as friends and family and colleagues discover that you're changing and shifting, you might run into some people who have aggressive feelings about that. And so how you respond to that is really key and important. So perhaps that's going to come up in September. And then the expansion energy, I've been feeling this myself for a couple of years now, and especially in the last 6 months. So I'd be curious to hear from anybody who listens to this episode how your world is opening up for you in all the different ways. All right. I would love to hear from you all what you got from this episode and what stood out to you the most. And if you feel inspired to, please share a clip of this episode to your social media and tag me. Or shoot me an email and just let me know how it impacted you. I love hearing from you when you reach out. It really means a lot to me. And thank you also, all of you that have reached out over the last year. I just feel compelled to say thank you for your referrals to new clients, for the workshops that have come my way. Every little bit of it matters, and all of it is quite synchronistic. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.